you know what? If one of their opponents had a coach on the side of the court helping them break down Djokovic's game and looking at things on Djokovic's serve or return that could give the other person another, little boost, who knows? We might not have these same winners over and over. Today's topic, though, we're talking about coaches being on court. And it's a topic that's gone back and forth. There's a lot of the older players who have been around for a while. They don't want to see it come into the game. There's a lot of younger players who think it's time for a bit of a change. We saw an incident on the weekend, at Cincinnati, where Tsitsipas went off the court after losing the first set. He took his bag with him. And then, who was he? He was playing Zverev, right?
Yeah. Zverev, yeah. He was playing
Zverev, and Zverev was blowing up. And on cue, the camera went straight to Tsitsipas's dad, and he's on his phone texting. Now, look, we don't know if he was texting him or whatever else, but there's obviously some sort of advantage for players who do happen to get some coaching throughout a match. There's been a bit of a push for coaches to be able to have a set check-in with their athlete, or maybe the coaches sit on the sidelines with you, like Davis Cup. It's an interesting topic. It's been knocked back by a few of the greats. Federer thinks it's a horrible idea, but I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think. What you think about it.
Well, I agree with Federer but tennis is such a unusual sport in regards to the coaching component. Because look at every other sport, basketball, Olympics, all the Olympics, everything. The coaches are there on the sidelines and they can scream and yell or talk or chat during the event while they're playing. And so, you see that not in tennis at all. And if you do, it's not acceptable. So maybe there is time for the change, but there's always going to be that question for me. And this is where I think it shouldn't be back. Two reasons. One is equality. You got these young players or these weaker players, when I say weaker players, lower ranked players who are struggling through the ITFs, the challenges and the futures. And they don't get, full-time coaches. They can't afford it. So when they're going out and playing, they're by themselves. I think and that's where at least my next point is tennis is a problem solving. This sort of separates the cream of the crop, the players who are not just skilled, but they're mentally tough and able to solve problems. So I think it takes away that really cool element. And that's that thing that separates the sport. And everyone argues, well, if every other sport does it, why can't tennis? Maybe that's what makes tennis special. Maybe that's what makes tennis unique.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you. I'm like, you look at individual sports, even like golf. Golf has their caddies telling them, what to do, giving them advice. All the other team sports, they have a coach on the sideline, trainers running out, telling them what to do, timeouts, everything like that. Even boxing and MMA, they go to their corner every round, and their trainer and their team tell them what to do. I don't know of any other, individual sport, unless it's like a short format sport, like a sprint, like a race, like swimming or something like this. But I don't know. I agree with you that I think it creates a little bit of disadvantage, especially for players who maybe can't afford to have coaches or are coming up, through the ranks. But just because something's been done a certain way for so long, does that not mean that we don't give it a go and see how it turns out? Because we're always, not everyone, but you always hear that complaint when the same people keep on winning. When Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, they just keep winning. They just keep winning. They just keep winning. Well, you know what? If one of their opponents had a coach on the side of the court helping them break down Djokovic's game and looking at things on Djokovic's serve or return that could give the other person another, little boost, who knows? We might not have these same winners over and over. If Tsitsipas had his coach on the sidelines in the French Open final when he played Djokovic, could he have been the difference maker? Could he have sort of calmed Stefanos down and sort of got him over the line? We don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea to trial. I think if we start seeing negative, that's my next question. What would be the negative what would be the fallout from having something like this?
I think it's just the lower rated players would be the fallout, but I think that's about it. I think there should be, I agree with you. There could be some different results if the coaches were involved, like the nerves of Tsitsipas at the French Open final. Wasn't he up a break in that third set?
I believe so.
Was he up a break?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
gosh.
crushing it.
Yeah, he was crushing it. And I think it was the semi-finals of Wimbledon too. Oh no, it wasn't the semis. I think Djokovic was in a bit of trouble. Anyway, I see your point, and that's why I'm not necessarily saying no, you shouldn't have it back. I just think they have to do it correctly. I've got a theory. We're both fans of basketball, and your basketball coaches on the sideline are screaming out to players, cover, move, do this, do that. You can't do that in a tennis match, obviously. Well, you can, but probably
No.
not ideal. Well, it's
Sorry, that's a different topic. We'll
tradition.
come back to it. We'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. But what if you had timeouts? You're allowed 2 timeouts a game. You know what I'm saying? Like you have a timeout, say, hey, coach's timeout. You're allowed injury timeout. You're allowed bathroom timeout. You're allowed medical timeout. Why not a coach's timeout?
Well, that could stop the medical timeouts and the injury timeouts and the, planned, we'll call them planned breaks, because you see how fired up people get when someone's on a roll. Say me and you were playing, I won the first set, and then you take an injury break or a bathroom break to break my momentum and rhythm. Well, if both players had 2 timeouts, that's a tactical game right there. That's the equivalent that I see of your interchange player. That would be like using your fresh legs. It would be like a fresh perspective going into the next set. And you can't get mad at the other person using it because you can use it as well 2 times in a game. I like that. I think if you were to add that, you would have to take away the injury timeouts and the bathroom breaks. If you wanted to use them, then cool, but you've got to use one of your timeouts for that. And if you want to use a third one, sorry, you're all out of timeouts. You can't take it. You can either continue or you can forfeit. And
or you can pee in a bottle.
well, if matches start going on, there'll be a rule. Like if it goes over 3 hours or 4 hours or something, then you get an extra one. But I don't think it's a bad idea. I will go back to the players who are maybe at that ITF level and trying to crack the ATP and WTA. You do feel for those players too, because once you reach that top sort of 30, it's a lot easier to maintain it. But to crawl all your way up to the top where you're getting constantly invited and accepted into Grand Slams and whatnot, it's tough and money is tight. But maybe they are allowed a timeout with maybe not necessarily their coach, but you're allowed a time. Every match you submit a person that can be your timeout person. So for instance,
I was thinking the same thing. Yes, go. Keep going.
It's very rare that players will travel just by themselves. You usually go with 2 or 3 players. They play the singles and the doubles circuit. A mate of mine, Tom Fancutt, is currently traveling all over the world. He's over there. He's killing it on the doubles circuit at the moment. That's kind of what's keeping his tour going. And he's traveling with buddies. And I thought, well, if you haven't got a coach, you've got another pro player with you. That person could be your person, and they want what's good for you because they're traveling around with you. So you might not necessarily need a coach. Maybe you just need a different set of eyes. Maybe you just need someone who isn't even in the tennis realm. Imagine if you didn't have someone and you saw a spectator like, hey, mate, you look like a good fella. I don't know you. Would you like to be my timeout coach? And just give me a few pats on the back and, give me a thumbs up and tell me that I can do it, twice a match. And who knows, I'll split the check with you if I win.
That would be amazing. Some big great. You're already creating great stories that could potentially happen, and I freaking love it. I also think there's another positive to this, is that you add an additional awareness of how the coaches operate and how good the coaches are. Some good coaches, because I don't think a lot of them get a lot of credit. Especially, we've talked about development coaches, high performance coaches, all that sort of stuff, but I don't think coaches get a lot of credit for saying what they have to say. Like one of the most amazing speeches I ever heard on do you remember Darren Cahill when he was speaking to Simona Halep a couple of years back or a year and a half back? It was an awesome speech. I mean, Simona Halep is a 2-time Grand Slam champion, former world number 1. She's coming back at the US Open actually. And
he got in trouble for that though. He got slammed for it, remember?
Yeah, he got slammed, but I'm not going to go into that conversation. I respected what he said because what he said was spot on. And it's a conversation that only a coach and a player can have. And I think it was purposeful. It was direct, and it snapped Simona out of it. And she respected it and she loved it and she needed that at the time. I think it was brilliant.
Just for those people who might not know what was exchanged between the two, just give us a quick rundown of what Darren Cahill said to Simona and the situation as well. I think she won the first, she was down in the second, or what was the situation? Just give us a quick rundown.
She wasn't playing her best at the time, and I can't quote it word for word, and I can't exactly know what he said. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was basically he was very upset with her demeanor, her reactions. She was very disrespectful. She was very moody. He was basically attacking her character and saying, you're disrespecting the game by your current behavior, and this is not acceptable. And he was kind of almost laying it out like to a teenage daughter, like, you can't behave like this, you can't react like this. And it got really personal in that regard. But again, it was their relationship, so I think it was totally fine. But yeah, it was pretty intense. And so a lot of people wrote back and said, oh, you shouldn't be saying that. It's very disrespectful. You can't say that to people. It's, she's a player. She needs her space, and started protecting her. But he's the coach. And I know for a fact that Darren Cahill and Simona Halep are like this, like they're very close. So I've heard stories about how close they really are, and they're a great relationship. So that's the general story, I think, what happened.
Yeah, and that was
awesome.
And that was a great example of the cameras also being in a good spot too. We feel kind of a little bit spoiled when we see vision and hear what coaches are like at that high level in high pressure situations. It's also one of those things we would have to be careful of too, because if coaches are saying things on the sideline, I'm going to the other side now. I'm now going into no, we definitely shouldn't have coaches. But if you have coaches, there's cameras everywhere. You would pick up what the other coach is saying. We would get more of an insight to those players. So people who might not necessarily be in that match, who might just be watching on TV, they would start to know, okay, well, this makes this player, that's what makes them tick. That's what pisses them off. This is what they do to try and get out of a rut. So it can become a very, very tactical game with the coaches involved as well. I think Federer, the reason he didn't want to have it so much was that it kind of, like you said, it takes away the problem solving. And that is such a huge part of tennis, is figuring out what the problem is by yourself. I don't know. My only response to that is tennis is a lonely enough sport as it is. Like, why not try and get some more people involved? And look, we say that, what makes tennis special. And I'm not saying that, I don't enjoy tennis. I love tennis, but it's definitely not the world's most popular sport either. And maybe if we added something like this, it would get more attention. And when I say most popular sport, let me ask you this. Whenever you pick up a paper here in Australia, unless the Australian Open's on, you look at the back 10 pages and there's no tennis. There might be a tiny little column in the 9th or 10th page back. Or when the news comes on, it's always, whether, international or American news, it's always, or ESPN, it's always the basketball, the NFL, it's soccer. It's all that stuff, and tennis kind of gets pushed by the wayside. And maybe, just maybe, it's what we need to, change the sport. There's nothing wrong with making changes, because you can always go back. Like, you can always say, cool, we tried this thing out, and cool, it didn't work, and let's go back to the way it was. What do we got to lose is what I'm trying to say.
Haven't they already trialed it with WTA events in some of the areas?
I think they have, yeah.
I think it was like a third set when it came to a third set or something, right?
Yeah, and I think that's when Darren Cahill was able to talk to Simona. But I'd love to see it at a Grand Slam level. I'd love to see maybe just one of the big 4 Grand Slams, maybe trial it, see how it goes. But the other thing I was going to ask you is, and the final thing we'll say to wrap up is, on the other side of it, on the coach's side of it, is you've been a coach when you have watched a player in a tournament, and even at the tournaments that we go to and we coach, it's not Grand Slam level, but we've taken teams away, representative state teams, and some pretty good players. And we get fired up. We want to talk to them, and we want to go, we want to explain, how can you not see this? And, if I just told them this, it would completely change the game. And then it becomes a bit of a chess battle between coaches. Like, hey, who's got the best strategy to, constantly combat the other player? I think you'd see a lot more coaches, get involved with their players. I think you'd see a lot more characters come out with the coaching team. What do you think about all that?
I agree with you. I know I've bitten my tongue many times, because I follow the rules. So remember when Serena's coach got busted, Frank got busted for, hand signals or things like that. I've actually caught myself watching one of my players play a tournament, playing a match, and they were doing something that we discussed they weren't doing. They went into panic mode. So instead of shaping the ball, for example, they were hitting flat and going for winners and making errors, and it was very inconsistent. And I would do this, I'd make this kind of symbol of shape or create a circle or do something. I'm sure you've done something similar too, like, I didn't coach. I just was drawing a circle in the air. That's all I was doing. It's not real coaching. And I'm just going to myself, it's not cheating, but I just want them to learn as quick as possible. And I think there's a lot more benefits than problems. I think you're going to have a lot more benefits than problems. And like you said, at the lower end, players travel together, teams travel together. It creates more of a team atmosphere. And tennis can be a little bit of an arrogant, self-indulging sport where people just only focus on themselves. And I think if the ITF level, the junior level, if people start, talking to each other and helping each other out, I think it'd be really great. There are some cons, and I think where you get the crazy, excuse the expression to these people, crazy parents who take the time out and start coaching. And that's the scary part. So I think it's worth a trial. I think it's already starting to get into the game already, and I'm looking forward to see how far it goes and hope that everyone's just open-minded to it, because I'm traditionalist, but I do like this concept. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, it could definitely open up some negative avenues for crazy parents.
Oh,
for sure.
yeah. Oh,
But,
yeah.
One of the, I'll give an example. I was actually a player. And this is back in 2010. I was living in Sydney, and we played the North Shore Open. Well, I played the North Shore Open. I've been working with this coach up in Sydney for about 6 months. His name was Andrew Crawley. G'day to Andrew if you're listening and still up there, mate. And we'd been working on my singles game for about 6 months, and I'm about 20 at the time. This is a pretty high-end tournament. Todd Reed was playing it, Nick Lindell. A few top names were playing. And I made it through qualifying. I made it to my first round, and I was struggling against this player. It was just a battle. I won the first set 7-5. He won the second set 7-5, and it was just a slugfest. And Andrew, my coach, he wasn't there for the first 2 sets, but then he rocked up at the start of the third. And we talk about, me and you, like, oh, we're not really cheating. We're just signaling and symboling and blah, blah, blah. We're kind of bending the rules a little bit. Well, Andrew he didn't care. I remember serving a point, and I hit this top spin ball to his backhand. And the guy just drove his backhand past me as I came to approach. And Andrew just yells out from 2 courts over. He's like, "Slice it to his backhand, you idiot." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, mate." And then I sliced it to his backhand all day, and he couldn't get down to that lower ball. And I think I won the third set like 6-3. And it was great. So every coach does it. Some coaches do it very blatantly. Some coaches hide it, but every coach wants to get involved. It's interesting. We don't want to spend too much more time on this one, kind of wrap it up, but we say the coach wants to get involved, but we've both been players as well. I know that as a player, there has been many times I wanted the coach to get involved, but there's also been many times where I didn't want the coach to get involved, where I wanted the coach to stop trying to coach me, to stop trying to give me advice. And I just wanted them to piss off.
Leave me alone. I've got this.
So, I mean, there's the flip side of an argument there. And that's a whole nother conversation of, when you're a player, do you like having a coach there? Do you like having a team there? Or do you like to just be zoned out? And maybe we'll save that one for next time.
Yeah, let's see I wonder what people think at home. What if they think coaching should be on or not? What do you reckon?
Yeah. Well, if anyone listening, drop a little comment below. Let us know. What do you think about coaching? Should coaches be on the side of the court at all levels of tennis, whether it be junior, whether it be the pros, ATP, Grand Slams? What do you think? Is it a good idea? But Rez, it's actually been really good to chat with you. It's good to see you. First time I've seen you physically in like 2 weeks.
I know. I'm so sorry about that. I'm here for you though.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. Well, look, you may as well sign us out. You know what to do. We've done it many times.
I do. Have I? I've done it once, and you weren't happy with it. Hang on. I'll give it a try. Right. If you really enjoyed today's podcast, please comment below and let us know if there's anything you want to talk about. Subscribe, please, and let us know down the bottom. Is it down the bottom, the subscription part? Yes.
Look for the subscription button.
Look for the subscription button. But Nelson, thank you so much for today. And everyone, you stay safe out there, and we look forward to chatting to you soon.
Pretty good, mate. All right. We'll talk soon. You idiot.
There's some things never change.
That was good.